this point in the war is drawing to a close. The Nazis have already surrendered. Italy is out of the picture. Japan only has months until it will eventually surrender after we drop the atomic bombs on them, on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The leaders of the Allies are coming together to talk and discuss what are the plans for the future. What are we going to do after the war? And this comes to a head when they meet at the Yalta Conference. Winston Churchill, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and Joseph Stalin, they get together and they say, look, we got to have a plan for Europe. We got to have a blueprint for what we are going to do to rebuild the world. And they come to a series of agreements, mainly saying, okay, the countries that you, Stalin, have now taken in place of the Nazis, we're going to give them free elections. We're going to have democratic proceedings, similar to the West in America. And Poland is going to be Poland again and give back their freedom and independence. And Stalin's going to be like, all right, yeah, sure, we'll do that. I'll definitely do that. And obviously, because of communism, the way of thinking, and because Stalin wants to make basically the Soviet Union great and powerful, he's going to break that promise eventually down the line. And also, we're going to meet later, a couple months later, after the war has completely ended, in Potsdam. The big three meet again, only this time FDR has died. The stress of being president and the disease has finally claimed his life. And no longer is it him, but instead it's Winston Churchill, Harry S. Truman, and Joseph Stalin meeting together. They're discussing more plans of what we're going to do. And in this meeting, they decide, okay, Germany is going to be divided. Each group is going to control a sector with military forces to keep them under control, to make sure that we rebuild them and that we are not going to allow anything like what Hitler had planned happen again. The Allies will each take like a corner of Germany. We have France taking one fourth. We have the Americans taking another fourth. The British taking another corner. And then Joseph Stalin, Soviets, taking the last piece and the biggest piece of Germany. And we agree to start working with them and taking them over. And we really start to see the divide between East and West happening for the future Cold War. And it's not just in Germany where we start to see lines redrawn. We start to see borders shift, maps change. We start to see communism spread throughout Central and Southern Europe in the East. We start to see the same thing with democracy and freedom and ideas that we stand for take place in the West and rebuilding. In China, they resume their civil war. The Japanese attacked China in the 30s because, one, they wanted more land and more resources for imperialism. But two, China was divided. They thought, hey, these two are fighting amongst themselves. Japan, thinking that it's high and mighty, says, these two are fighting, I think I can take them, since they're already hurting each other. But that's not the case. The Chinese unite and are able to help push the Japanese out. And now that Japan is no longer a threat, because we have taken them out of the war, they resume their fighting. And with Japan itself, it's completely occupied. We have troops, ships, and planes stationed on the islands. We are going to help build them back up. We're going to build up bridges, roads, hospitals, schools. We're going to help them build them back up from the ground up and give them laws and freedoms that they didn't have when they were imperialistic, when they were a dictatorship. They're going to basically have a government similar to ours, and we are going to literally build an ally out of them for the future. And to give you kind of perspective on what this is looking like, this is a map of Nazi Germany, all the gray. At the height, and the most furthest extent it would spread in Europe. The gray lines here represent allies or somewhat occupied territory that they had. Basically, the whole of Europe was theirs. And we go from this to this. All that purple right here with the Soviet Union spreads deeper into Europe. They have Poland, Czechoslovakia, the eastern half of Germany, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, and they're even wanting to try and spread into Yugoslavia. They're taking territory that the Nazis had in the 1940s, and they're absorbing it into their own territory after they're winning and defeating the Nazis. And here we see Germany. We have Great Britain occupying one section, the Americans in the south, the French in the west, and here the Russians taking it out. And interestingly, Berlin, inside the Russian zone, is also going to be divided. The city itself will be split into 4 sections, each guarded by Great Britain, France, America, and Soviet Union. It's a kind of a weird play, but this is what we agreed to at the Potsdam Conference. In addition to the maps being redrawn in Europe, imperialism is on the decline. No longer are the great nations of France and Great Britain and other European powers going to hang on to their colonies. They're going to realize that because of the mistakes that we've seen in World War II, Germany, Italy, and Japan taking land, imperializing it for resources, they realize, no, we can't do this anymore. We cannot stand for an idea that leads to suffering and death. So instead, they let go of their colonies. All of this, you remember how we talked about Africa was just all these different colors because of all the European nations that held it? All the different territories owned by Great Britain, France, Germany, Spain, so on and so forth. All of this is now going to be let go. They're basically going to come up and say, look, you're your own country now. You're free. We're not going to rule you anymore. You take the reins of your own power. And unfortunately, because a lot of nations and a lot of people haven't had the experience or the opportunity to have their own freedom, this is going to lead into some serious problems later. It's kind of like how basically when America went into Iraq in the 2000s. We went in and we removed the dictatorship, but we didn't have a plan to set up a government for them so that there wouldn't be chaos afterward. That's what's going to happen here. They let go of their colonies, but they didn't have a plan to set up a stable government. And we're just going to have nothing but chaos well into today because of that. Now, the biggest change in the world is that we have the emergence of superpowers. We had powerful nations in the world before, but we have not had superpowers. And 2 of them are going to be key in the future and in history so far. We have the United States emerging as one. It wasn't destroyed or suffered severe damage in World War II. We only lost a portion at Pearl Harbor. The rest of the damage was in Europe and in Asia. America was still intact, and we had a lot to use to get bigger and better. And we had weapons like the atomic bomb now on our side to show our military might. The other superpower is the Soviet Union. You saw that map. They are spreading. They are taking territory left and right. They are proving that they have the means to eventually rival that of the United States. But of the 2 superpowers that are going to step into place in the world, the United States is going to be the strongest of the 2. These 2 superpowers are going to rise up and attempt to help guide the world according to their vision, their means. Now, when the United States assumes the mantle of responsibility and steps up and says, look, to protect our interests, to protect the United States interests and our people, we have to put the world's interests as well so that we can benefit from it. They step in to go ahead and build up the world economy. They say, look, we're going to get with the nations of the world and we are going to help each other with money so that we can make a stable economy and avoid a world depression that we did in the 30s. We are going to build the United Nations, a replacement for the League of Nations. No longer are we going to remain idle and allow monsters like Hitler or Mussolini to rise up. We, with other nations, are going to police the world. Not just ourselves, but police the world. And later, We are going to hunt down Japanese and Nazi war criminals. We are going to try them in a court of law for crimes against humanity. The Holocaust is a crime against humanity and people of the free world. We are not going to tolerate that anymore. And I say hunt because even after World War II, there were Nazis and Japanese war criminals who escaped before we could capture them. They tried to hide in other places of the world. There's a lot of stories about how some Nazis would escape to South America, in Argentina, and other places in the world. And we sent spies. We spent agents after them. Israel, the newly formed country of the Jews, would do this as well, because you could probably understand they want revenge for what happened to them and their people. So we're going to send down spies, and we're going to hunt them down in a court of, and bring them to a court of law to pay for what they've done against humanity. And America is assuming a new identity. We are going to stand up. No longer are we going to be isolated. We are going to go out, and we are going to help guide the world to a better future. Who here has ever been in a situation where someone had to step up? There was a problem or a situation that needs to be dealt with, and you took it upon yourself to take care of it. Because I know I have. I saw many problems in my life and in my family where I said, fine, I'm going to step up, and I'm going to do what's right, and I'm going to go and help the people that I can. That's what America is doing. We're not going to stay by ourselves and hide in our corner of the world. We are going to use the power that we have and use it responsibly. And in that, we are going to emerge as a prosperous and rich nation. We didn't get the damage that World War II gave to Europe and Asia. We thrived, we rebuilt, and we became a production powerhouse. And we became rich off of it. The middle class, the working class, now have money in their pockets, spending power. The economy is flourishing. The Depression is knocked out of the park. And we have now a powerful military that we can use and deploy anywhere in the world. We have the atom bomb on our side. We have new weapons and technology that we're constantly building. And we're hopefully leading into a better and brighter future. Now, are there any major questions or concerns for the material that we're covering right here? All right.
Are there?
Yes.
So, are there still like Nazis like that are still alive? Like, are they still in jail and stuff like that?
No, that is actually not the case right now, because during the Nuremberg trials, when we tried Nazis for war criminals, their longest prison sentences were only 20 years tops. Because after that, the others, they were executed because the crimes they committed were so horrible against the Jews and anyone who was undesirable.
But they still are discovering some that are in hiding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is likely that there are some war criminals still alive, but they're going to be ancient. They're going to be in like their 90s and 100s at this point.
And if they're found, they can still go to jail.
Yeah, they would still be tried for crimes that they committed in the 40s. But even though they may escape justice from the West or from democracy, death is going to claim them eventually. So, any other questions or concerns? All right. So, what I want to go ahead and give you for the rest of the class, I want to give you time to work on your primary sources. Get out your Chromebooks to continue research or to work electronically on them. Go ahead and get your materials from poster board to markers to pencils, tape, scissors, whatever you need from the closets here. Work with your partners to get ideas. Like you say, hey, what are you working on? Oh, maybe this and that, I was thinking. And yeah, talk and work. And I'm going to give you this time to work so that way you won't get overburdened on the weekend.
So it's like a